What's going on YouTube? This one's been a long time coming. I am Ninja Chortle, and today we're going to go over my custom build of Lilandra of the Shi'ar Empire. I say it's been a long time, Bill, because I started this and relatively finished it several months ago. However, between procrastination and just a lot of just side issues that came up with this one, it took me a little bit longer to finally get it finished, but I did it. And although it's not perfect, I will admit that there are definitely some mistakes that were made. I'll go over those, but as always with my videos, if you are interested in making your own, this is what this video is about. Showing you and telling you what the parts, where the parts came from, and how I did what I did. So if you were impressed or interested, and maybe you think you can even improve it, you at least know what I did, so that way you can go about doing it yourself. This isn't what I'm going to directly show you. Again, it's just more of tell you if you're interested in seeing me actually work on my costumes, or my customs, excuse me. You can go to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ninja_chortle, and you can see me work on my customs there. I do sculpting, I do painting, and just general discussion of all the nerdy things. So that's where you can see my work, and you can see some behind the scenes stuff on my Twitter and on my Discord. But in general, we're just going to talk about this build. So let's start with we normally start with the bottom. We're actually going to start by focusing on her staff, and then we'll go to the actual figure. Alright, and if you're wondering why you're looking at not Lilandra anymore, that's because this is actually Odin / King Thor. I have him displayed as King Thor because, one, I didn't really like Odin that much in general, the way he was built, and secondly because I think King Thor is a little bit more relevant. At least he has been for the last year or so. So I decided to commit to King Thor on my shelf in place of Odin. Either way, Odin doesn't really need this, and neither does King Thor. So that's where this came from. This staff was for the Odin Build-A-Figure from several years ago. It's actually, I don't even know how long it was ago that came with this figure, but really, one, King Thor doesn't need it, and Odin shouldn't have had it to begin with. So some key changes here. One, I understand this is a Build-A-Figure. It's kind of hard to get this particular, I don't even know what figure it came with, what it was packed in with, but they have this exact same staff if you're interested in using this staff with the Walgreens exclusive Namor. It's the exact same thing, but the paint is a little bit different. In fact, this was painted, so this is a Model Masters acrylic brass color, not gold. I used brass instead of gold because I wanted to see what brass looked like, and it looks like this. It's just not quite as gold as I thought it would be. Obviously, I actually thought gold originally was too dark, so that's why I tried brass here. It doesn't look bad. I just wish now, and now I know, I would have rather it just been painted gold. But yeah, so the only real difference here with this, why I'm talking about it at length, is also not just the paint, but it's a little shorter than it was. I did shorten it. You can maybe see some of the epoxy sculpt there. So that was one of the difficult things about this, and why it took me so long to actually finish this custom, is because of modifying this, and I basically cut a piece out from the middle and made it shorter, so that way it wouldn't be too tall for Lilandra, because I mean, as is already the same size as King Thor, but it was actually longer than that. It was about this tall, so it was going to be really big for her, so I ended up cutting it down. But just the patience of using epoxy sculpt and glue, and just trying to figure out how to best get it to stick together, because it wasn't straightforward just gluing it back together, cutting that piece out. But eventually I got it down. It just took a lot of patience and basically a free afternoon of holding it together with my hand so the glue can dry for a very, very long time. But yeah, that's all this is. Nothing else was modified on it, and I think it looks decent. It's not exactly the way her staff looks, but again, we're not going for perfection. We're just trying to get something that looks really good. So let's go back to Lilandra now. Okay, so here we are back to Lilandra. I took the cape off just because there are issues with it, and it's just easier to move her around without it. But in general, starting from the bottom, everything is pretty standard with female figures down here, with just like the same old boots that you would get, or shoes or feet, what have you, that you would get on pretty much any other figure, just as is. But in general, the legs and the feet are coming from a female beetle figure. Again, it does not really matter because it ended up sanding and painting and doing some sculpt on top of it. So there actually is some epoxy sculpt going over the front of each boot just to give it like a little armor and a little extra bulk, and then some also here on the inside of each calf. So the idea was to sculpt the armor onto her legs, but not putting epoxy sculpt on the entire leg, because that's just not a good idea. You want to still have mobility. You still want to have the pins to be free and not have any epoxy sculpt in or near them. So I just put it on a place that would have some kind of detail, but still not using up a lot of epoxy sculpt. But they are these legs, and I believe those knees as well. I'm not 100% sure. Speaking of female beetle, while we're here, I might as well cover it now. Yeah, she's missing her top, and here it is here. But the arms are pretty generic arms as well. I'll get back to the detail on those arms, but I'm pretty sure I used the female beetle's arms on these. If not, it doesn't really matter. They're anybody's arms, because again, they just ended up painting them. Or for the most part, these older arms that came on the Kate Bishop body molds are pretty much what I use there. They're not anything special in that regard. Alright, so let's get back to it. The legs are actually legs from a AOA Jean Grey, the Age of Apocalypse. Sorry for all the movement here, but yeah, it's just from Age of Apocalypse Jean Grey. The thighs, I should say, the thighs and the hips. This is one of the weird things that I did figure out as I went along, but I wish I had some foresight. So the idea on the legs is, one, again, more epoxy sculpt for the armor parts on her thighs. Same idea, not trying to cover the entire thigh with epoxy sculpt or the entire silver armored part, just enough to get the idea of where the silver paint should be and where the darker color should be. I originally was thinking, and I'm still very conflicted on it, because the way they illustrated the older artworks, if this is supposed to be blue or black. In general, I always thought it was blue, but then sometimes it feels like maybe it was black, and that's just kind of how they did their illustrations in comic books back then. They did a lot of blues with a lot of black accents, or blacks with blue accents, and it was just hard to determine exactly what their intentions were. And I ended up wanting to make it this very midnight blue, and these legs are already that color. Once you strip this inner blue out, they're already that color, and I didn't even need to go through all of that effort to sand and prime and get new paint and repaint it and all that stuff, if I was just going to make them the same color as they are now. Like, that was something I didn't even realize at that time, and yeah, I would have saved myself a lot of paint rub, and also a lot of effort, because these legs are just perfect for that color. this is like 2 or 3 different colors of and coats of paint mixed together. So just to get that. But yeah, that was a learning process, and I will try to pay more attention to that. It's one tip that I always have for most people here is that if you need a black piece, like a black arm or black hand, then find a black one that's already that color in plastic, so that way you don't have to worry about paint rub, you don't have to worry about painting it or sanding it or doing anything like that. If it's already that color, then save yourself the effort. So that's what this case is. If it's already that color, save yourself the effort. Okay, back at it. The torso on Lilandra, the upper torso and the lower torso, are from this Blink figure. In general, like I said, with the arms, I specifically said they were older arms on like a Kate Bishop body, but not the Blink arms, because these arms are a little bit more muscular tone, and I usually save these for strong girls, like bigger, bulkier arms. They're the same bulkiness for the most part, but these are still more muscularly toned. So these are more slender arms, less toning. So but yeah, the upper torso and lower torso are from this Blink, and then it's encased in epoxy sculpt. Almost the entirety of the front of the figure is epoxy sculpt, but the back side is not. So that's one step, I should say, that I saved by kind of, I really don't know if it's supposed to be entirely armor, or if her back is out like this. Normally her cape is on, so you can't see the back side of it. I didn't find any reference pictures of her without the cape and the backside of Lilandra, so I just kind of guessed slash saved a step slash saved complications slash use my own headcanon of, well, if she's sitting down, who wants to sit on armor? Like, wouldn't that be really hard and uncomfortable? So yeah, I just painted it this dark blue color to not be armor all across her backside. So again, the cape is back there, so no one's going to see that if the cape is on, or in general, I think it just makes more sense. But all of the front is epoxy sculpt, and then like literally the entire lower torso on the front is epoxy sculpt, and then this stripe going across there. And then I took the X-Acto knife and then cut in, before the epoxy sculpt dried, cut in these lines that are going across her body, going across her torso, to get that armored look. So that's not painted lines at all. Those are actually just sculpted on with they're cut into there, so they're just like seams basically. Going back to the arms though, so the arms are painted all the silver color, and one of the things that I did here, you can see I just added some epoxy sculpt as well to give it a bigger cone like shape on each of the arms. That way, I guess it's kind of like the glove or whatever it is on her arms, but there's that there. And then it's also on the shoulder blade, we have a more of a, I don't know what to say about that, but that's armor type shape thing there on her right shoulder. Now I originally also did that on her left shoulder, and that's one of the things that also held me up too, because I wanted to get this cape to fit on her, right? And I cut it down, cut down this part so that it's look more like it does in the comic book when it's on her body, because she's generally posed something like this, where the cape, even on the animated series, which was another point of reference for me for Lilandra, is looking at her on the animated series, is that it was on the one side of her chest and her back, but then it didn't wrap around and it didn't go across her other shoulder. So I ended up cutting off that piece of this cape, which this cape, by the way, is from a Black Knight, the comic book Black Knight figure I don't have an extra one on me, but it's downstairs as fodder. Like I learned how to crack open a male torso by starting with that one. But yeah, this is what this cape came from. No painting, nothing was modified other than cutting it. So there's that. And yeah, so this arm also had that armor piece on it, but as you can see, if that had that protrusion coming off her shoulder, it would be getting in the way of the of this cape on this shoulder. So I ended up getting her another arm after making that shoulder piece, and being frustrated with trying to get the cape to work. So it took me a couple months to get back to Lilandra to do this other arm and to get everything done. And I literally just put it together a couple days ago. So that is that. And then lastly, her head, which we're going to back up a little bit more now, and just go ahead and take the cape out of here. Her head is, to the uninitiated, it is the head from the Mystique Walgreens exclusive, because it came packed with 2 additional heads, the Mystique figure, and then it had a like a Mystique transforming into Rogue head, and then it came with a Lilandra head inexplicably. So that's all that this is. It's just that head. I did repaint though all of the helmets so that the metal of her helmet would match the same color of the metal armor on her body. And that's it. I didn't do anything else additional to that. It does have a gloss finish on all of the steel color paint. This is Model Masters acrylic steel color, and then a matte finish on all of the blue, and that's it. That's Lilandra. So again, the most complicated things were actually the staff and for the most part her chest. The mistakes though is in her chest. So one of the things that I did, like I said, by mistake, is I added too much epoxy sculpt, or I should say I didn't sand enough down. I wanted it to be like armor, so I wanted it to look thick on her body, so I didn't sand it down very much. Normally when I add epoxy sculpt, I'll sand it down to the point where it looks flush, but you can still tell that it's there. But with her, I wanted it to actually look thick on her body so it can look like it's a piece of armor, and that's what the mistake was. It's too thick in here, in her chest. In between here, it's too thick. So when I put it on, it was fine, right? And it still looks fine as is. But the problem is it's making this area too big. So now there's not that much clearance, and I've had the back of here rub off the paint on the back of the lower torso, because it doesn't have the clearance that it used to have, like it should have if you were looking at like on this figure, because again it's the same torso. It doesn't have that clearance in there because of the epoxy sculpt. It's too thick. So that's my mistake, and it's not something that I can't correct, though it's a little, I wouldn't say it's too late to correct on this figure, because I can, if I wanted to, take it apart, sand it down, and repaint it, but I don't want to do that, so it's fine. I'll just live with it. But that is, again, a lesson learned. Either don't put any epoxy sculpt in this area that is connecting the 2 torsos, or sand it down thin enough so it's not a big difference and you won't have that much paint rub. But yeah, this isn't a big deal because also her cape is back there, and what kind of pose would she be in anyway where you would see all of that back there? So that's just, it stinks, but it's fine at the end of the day. So this is Lilandra. Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I got more videos on the way. This is just the first one that I'm recording today. I'm doing 2 more. So look for more videos on your way very soon, and I'm glad to finally record this video on her because, like I said, it's been a couple months that I finished this Lilandra, and I, by the way, will, at least I plan on making a Lilandra without the armor on, so her and her like black bodysuit, or is it dark blue? I don't know. But the black bodysuit, and her hair out with no helmet on. So that is something I do plan on doing sometime in 2021. And who knows? I was going to tease some other things, but you know what? I forgot one more thing. We have to have Lilandra with her guy, her bodyguard, right? You can't just have Lilandra in a video and then not have the Gladiator right next to her. So yeah, let's get that together. So there they are. No cape for Lilandra, but yeah, we got Gladiator, and that's there's your height difference. I actually need to reference her height again. I don't remember if she's supposed to be really tall or short or whatever. I made this a few months ago, so I wasn't exactly on my A game when trying to scale correctly, both height and weight. But the next time I do Lilandra, I will try to make sure that she is scaled correctly. She might be fine, but in general, the next time I will do better. But yeah, I do plan on adding more to this collective here, if you understand what that I mean by that, and also some other spacefaring X-Men related characters I would like to make at some point in the future, but we'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I definitely want to have a full-on X-Men space base characters group going on, because I highly doubt Hasbro will make those for us. So anyway, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.